Hello everyone and welcome back to our course. In this lecture, we're going to analyze more of our features of our data set. We're going to look at the numerical features first. So let's create a new code cell here. And I'm going to grab our data frame. And at the numerical features, I'm going to call the describe function, then run this code cell. And this is going to give me a summary, a statistical summary of each of the columns that correspond to the values in my numerical features list. So we have our sale price, and we can see all of the statistical descriptions for the sale price, lot area, overall quality, overall condition, year built, first floor square footage, second floor square footage, and bedrooms above ground. All right, and just like that, we've gotten a quick description of our numerical features. Next up, let's make this a bit more visual. Let's create histograms for all of these features. So I'm going to take my data frame, and at my numerical features, I'm going to call the hist function to make a histogram. All right, and let's see. I am going to set my edge color again to equal black. I'll set my bins to equal 20 again. And then I can just run this and we will see our histograms. Okay, look at this. We get a histogram for every single column. Now, it's kind of overlapping, so what we want to do is set the figure size. The figure size we'll set to 14 by 5. We can also set the layout, which is going to show us how many we want per instance, so per column. There we go. So that looks a lot bigger now because we set the figure size to be larger and the layout to be 2 rows by 4 columns. So look at this. We now see a histogram for sale price, and we can see that the most frequent sale price, okay, we already had this actually, we saw this earlier, but now we have lot area as well. So we can see that for lot area, there's really only 3 different lot area categories for our binning. And the most popular one was about, well, it's a bit hard to read, so I would make these even bigger. Honestly, let's see, let's do 2 by 2 to make it a bit easier to read here. Then I'll hit run on this code cell again. Okay, let's see. Yes, if you do 2 by 2, you just have to make sure that you can still fit the number of columns you have. So we have 8 columns, so we actually have to do 4 by 2. So that will give me 4 rows with 2 of our different columns per row. And also I'm going to increase the figure size. Let's increase this to 14 by 14. So we'll get a square figure, and that will make it a lot easier to read. Okay, great. So now we can see our figure size is 14 by 14, a square, and the layout is 4 rows and 2 columns. So now we can read a bit easier these distributions. So we can see that the most popular lot area distribution now was from 0 to 12,000. Then we go on to overall quality. You can see again the most frequent appearances of ranges of quality. Same with condition. And year built, we can see that the majority of the houses were built after the year 2000. We can see the majority of houses have approximately 750 to 1,000 square footage. And note that it's not really majority actually, but I should say it's the frequency. The most frequent occurrence had that many. It's still not the majority because majority would have to be 50%. All right, and for second floor square footage, we can see the most frequent occurrence was actually quite an outlier from all the rest. The most frequent one for square footage was about 0 to 100 square footage. And that makes sense. Most apartments are that big. Then we have bedrooms above ground. The most frequent occurrence was 3. So not necessarily the majority, but it was the most frequent number that occurred in the data frame. All right, next up we can continue, and let's say we wanted to do some calculations. So what if we wanted to get the age of the building? Well, for the age of the building, we actually don't have it as a column. We have year built, yes, and we could then perform some math and we can get the current year and subtract the year built, and that would give us the age of the building. But what if we wanted to get the age of the building when it was sold? Because often that's a factor in housing. You know, the more new a house is, typically that will increase its likelihood of being sold, but not necessarily, because those are also the most expensive. So let's now calculate how many houses were new when they were sold. So for that, I'm going to have to create a new code cell, and I'm going to have to create in my data frame a new column called age when sold. And I'm going to take my data frame, and I'm going to take the year sold column, and I'm going to subtract the data frame at the column of year built. So just make sure you have the exact same names, because it is a little bit different, year sold versus year built. And you can verify that we do indeed have those columns in our initial CSV file. So that will give me the age of the house when it was sold. All right, and then I can, after that, take my data frame and, well, just like that, it will actually already have the column in it, but I can append it to my numerical features. I can append the age when sold to these features if I want it to be used later on. Then I can get my data frame at all of my columns again that I wanted, all of my numerical features, and I can now see I'll have this extra histogram for age when sold. I could also just show that individual histogram as well. It's another option. So if I wanted to just show the individual one, I would just, let's see, I would take the exact same thing I did for the sale price, and I would just show that. But I would replace sale price with, of course, age when sold. And if I run this code cell, look at this. I have one histogram again only instead of all of them, because I only chose one column. And look at this. We now see the distribution of houses, the frequency of the ages they were when they were sold. So the most frequently sold houses were the newest. And we can see that because the highest bar here is between 0 and about 7.5 years. So this has already given us some very valuable insight into our data. Coming up, we're going to look at what we can do with categorical data, because this has been so far numerical data on a range. So join me in the next lecture where we will learn how to work with categorical features.